What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to this week's installment on The Lake Show, and I really appreciate you all making me a part of your day again. Last week, we had a hell of an episode. We're talking a little bit about the election. I kind of really smack-talked Joe Biden, President Joe Biden, and Donald Trump for that debacle of a debate. It was ridiculous. Just watching those two just go at it with each other. And I talked a little bit about how in trouble the Democrats really are when it comes to their candidate of choice right now. There's a lot of rumors swirling that Biden was going to drop out of the race altogether, but, he came out publicly and said that he is not going to drop out whatsoever. So, he's in it for the long haul, at least until November when he's booted out of office. That's the way it's trending, at least. And especially if you look at the poll numbers right after that debate, yeah, Biden is starting to nosedive right into the ground, that's for sure. I also talked a little bit about the NBA free agency, and a lot of things didn't happen the way I wanted it to when it comes to my favorite team, the Lakers. So we're gonna really talk about the Lakers today in a little bit, but we got a full slate today. It's going to be a little bit of a mix between NBA and a little bit of NFL, but we're going to start off the show with something a little bit different because I'm still a child at heart, apparently, when it comes to video games. EA College Football drops in literally 1 week for those who pre-ordered it, of course. Because, when it comes to EA making big money, I hate flies. Sorry, guys. I hate flies. They're the most annoying things on planet Earth. They really are. Either way, part of me, my inner child, we're going to talk about EA College Football 25 a little bit because they released a full gameplay trailer yesterday morning, and it looks fantastic. So we're going to talk about that. A bunch of grown men are going to be calling off work to play that game. Trust me. And for all those who are going to judge out there, don't even start because you probably will do the same thing that I'm going to do on that great day when that game is released. But for everybody out there, you all know I'm a Bucked Up ambassador, so use promo code SHOW32. Get yourself 20% off any and all pre-workout orders at buckedup.com. So we're going to get started today. Again, I really appreciate you all making me a part of your day. It's been a fun time these past couple weeks making content, and I will say I am very exhausted. Not from doing this, but traveling for work back and forth from Cleveland is just really taking a toll on my sleep schedule, that's for sure. I have been up since, obviously this is dropping on Tuesday. I will say I can't wait for the day when I start uploading same days just so I stay up to date with a bunch of things because it's happened quite a few times, especially when it comes to, work schedule and life schedule. Sometimes I really usually like to record on Mondays. That way I have everything I need. I'm caught up to date with most of everything and then post it the next day so I don't seem, disconnected from, real life situations. But sometimes it just doesn't happen that way. Like when I recorded last week, I talked about where Klay Thompson should have went, what would be the smartest decision for him to make and, what would be the best fit for him. And I said the Mavericks and I said the Lakers. Well, go figure, literally not even an hour after I finished recording, Klay Thompson signed with the Dallas Mavericks. So in a way, it seems like I'm, not caught up to date with a lot of things. That's why, we're trying to figure out the best way to do some things, but sometimes I have to record earlier in the week and have the episode ready for the following Tuesday. It's just sometimes it's just the way the cards are dealt for me. So I look forward to the day I'll finally be able to upload same days and just make it fast, quick, and efficient, and just basically keep myself up to date with the current landscape of football, baseball, basketball. Not really baseball, but Paul Skeens, all-star in the MLB. Dude's a stud. Dude is the best pitcher in the league in the MLB, and it's not close right now. Paul Skeens is a dog. That dude, man, he can really sling that baseball, that's for sure. Especially me being a former pitcher, I love seeing it. I love seeing the Pirates do good. Now, I'm not really a Pirates fan anymore, but I still root for Andrew McCutchen. That's my favorite baseball player of all time. But Paul Skeens and the Pirates, watch out. That's going to be a dangerous, dangerous team to go up against. I really hope the Pirates make the playoffs, and I hope they're going to make a run with Paul Skeens and Andrew McCutchen and all them boys, because Paul Skeens is really showing out right now. Undefeated record as a starting pitcher, that's impressive, especially for the Pirates. The Pirates know a lot about failure over the past 10 to 15 years. Trust me, I know too much about that when it comes to how much I've rooted for the Pirates over the past couple years, but that's neither here nor there. So that was the first time I ever talked MLB on this show. Isn't it crazy? I just don't really watch much baseball anymore. Not since the Pirates got rid of a lot of players way back when. I just stopped watching baseball. It's kind of a hard watch sometimes. But my Yankees, while they're still doing good, 14-game skid, losing 14 out of 16 games. Are you shit? See, nothing boils my blood more than the Yankees, because they should easily have 1, 2, maybe 4 World Series championships since their last one. But, whatever. What do I know? I'm not a baseball manager or anything like that. All right, enough screwing around. So I appreciate that. I appreciate you all being patient with me. That little rant of an intro. It's kind of a long intro. Wow. But either way, we're going to start off with what I like to start off with the show with is, this reality check that a bunch of grown men in 1 week time is going to be calling off work to play EA Sports College Football 25. And like I said, the trailers that they've been releasing over the past couple months, the hype train has left the station and it's about to arrive. EA College Football 25 looks like the best football game, period, ever released. From a gameplay perspective, of course, because obviously it's not out yet. We got to see how much in-depth and detailed this game really is, but all signs are pointing to this being the best college football game. Really, honestly, maybe the best sports game ever released for consoles. I can't think of a more exciting time to start playing college football again. Everybody who knows the story about college football and the NCAA series, the last game being in 2013 with NCAA 14, Denard Robinson on the cover. Obviously, after the fact of that, in the aftermath of that game's release, a bunch of allegations came forward, and it's just, unfortunate that, the NIL was not a thing back then. College athletes weren't getting paid for their name, image, and likeness being used by EA in their college football games or college basketball games or whatever game that EA was making at that time. And in regards to the law, of course, it sucked to see it as a consumer because we've been hammering for another college football game experience for over 10 years, over a decade, and, we were robbed of that opportunity. But on a technicality basis, the court system made the right choice. I mean, if I was being used in a game or media or anything, and I wasn't paid for it, I'd kind of be a little ticked off too. Maybe not too ticked off because I don't really care too much, but I get where all those athletes were coming from. And now, obviously, thanks to NIL, all that goes out the window, and now we're finally transitioning into another college football game 10 years, 11 years down the line. And I have never said this about any sports game ever. I think this has the potential to be game of the year. I never thought I'd ever say that about a sports game, let alone made by EA, of all organizations. Everybody knows me, knows that how much I like to shit on EA. Sorry for cursing, but everybody knows how much I like to dog EA because of their scummy business practices. They're right up there with Activision Blizzard and a bunch of other gaming corporations who are just out there for their bottom line and their bottom dollar and don't care about the gaming experience for consumers in general. They just want their money. That's all they care about. And yeah, as much as I'm hyped for the new Call of Duty is going to take a step back in my life compared to the new college football game coming out real soon. They had the gameplay trailer. They showed Donovan Edwards, he was one of the participants in playing the early release of the game. And I got to say, the game looks so smooth. The game looks so realistic. It really does. The physics, the graphics, the game day atmosphere, everything about the game, all signs point in the direction of this being an absolute home run by EA. I think the executives who make the Madden franchise are literally pissing their pants because they realize probably now, oh, we actually got to try to make a good game now. We can't just give them a roster update for $70 every year now. Oh, go figure. I was tired of that shit anyway, EA. Scummy bastards. Sorry for cursing so much, but it's just the truth. EA, they're a bunch of scummy businessmen when it comes to everything they've ever made. You look at any of the games they made in the past, Battlefront 2, Battlefield. I think Battlefield was part of EA. Yeah, they were. It's just a bunch of scummy business practices that held the games back from being the best that they can be. It is what it is. Who cares nowadays? Because we're getting probably the best gaming experience when it comes to a football game ever. All signs point to this being an absolute home run, slam dunk, grand slam. It don't matter. I think EA is going to knock it out of the park with this one, and all signs are pointing to that exact scenario happening, and I would not be shocked whatsoever if it holds up like it's supposed to be holding up right now. I would not be shocked whatsoever if EA College Football 25 this year wins Game of the Year. That's how amazing it looks right now. The fact that even in the early on trailers of the game, the early on releases, they had Michigan going to a Penn State whiteout in game, and they played Mo Bamba at Penn State. Now, anybody who's a Penn State fan knows the song Mo Bamba, especially at their whiteout games against big-time opponents like Michigan, Ohio State, Michigan State, any of those big-time rivalries in the Big Ten. And now, teams like USC, UCLA, those teams are going to experience that as well. But it's just the fact that they went so detail-oriented when it came to real-life college football experience, putting it in the game. That's admirable because that just shows you so much dedication and time and effort went into crafting this to be the best possible game for every and all consumers out there who just want to play college football again. I think they went above and beyond anybody's expectations, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people, myself included, with EA running the show, we expected something to be broken. I will say, though, Donovan Edwards already looks like a cheat code in-game. Michigan's running back, Donovan Edwards, he's primed for a big year this year again with the Wolverines, but I don't think they're going to the playoff or winning a national championship, but I definitely think Donovan Edwards, maybe a hot take, will be a first-round draft pick in the 2025 NFL draft. I would not be shocked whatsoever with the kind of year if Donovan Edwards rushes for 1,000 yards this year. He's already a stud in real life, and let me tell you, there's always players that are broken in games. There's always things that are broken in games. I think some of the star players in college football, at least in the game, like Donovan Edwards, are going to be absolutely broken. To start off, at least. They may get a nerf eventually, but anyway, that's the wrap-up when it comes to EA College Football 25 right now. It's kind of surreal that we are literally 1 week away, and I'm going to be talking about it the second it comes out. All right, we're transitioning now into the NFL. And something small, because I saw recently, at least recent topics, people were talking about, are the Jets, the New York Jets, the Jets. I am not BSing any of you. There were recent talks about the Jets being a possible Super Bowl contender. The Jets have not made a Super Bowl since Super Bowl III, well over 50 years ago, when Joe Namath called victory against the Indianapolis Colts. All right, when it comes to the Jets, what has been their biggest issue basically over the past 30 years? Quarterback play and offensive line play. Now, there was that one stretch when Mark Sanchez actually looked like the guy who could be the next franchise guy for the New York Jets. I will give props to Mark Sanchez because he did not do bad in that 2009 to 2012 stretch of years. The Jets went back-to-back AFC championship games in that time, once against the Colts and once against the Steelers, and they lost both. Now, that was mainly because they went up against two great teams. They obviously went up against the Colts, and at that time they had Peyton Manning, Reggie Wayne, Dallas Clark, Joseph Adai. The Colts were loaded at that time. And when they went up against Pittsburgh, they ran into Big Ben, Hines Ward, Mike Wallace, Antonio Brown, Emmanuel Sanders, Heath Miller, Rashard Mendenhall, and the second coming of the Steel Curtain led by Troy Polamalu. So it didn't shock me that, the Jets were feisty. They had good players. They had a really good team coached by Rex Ryan, who many people thought he's a terrible coach. I don't necessarily believe that he's a terrible coach, but they still had Mark Sanchez. They had Santonio Holmes, former Steeler, and they also had an older but still solid LaDainian Tomlinson at running back. Now, the issue is the Jets have always struggled getting the offensive line right, and they've always struggled getting a quarterback. But that's really a lot of teams in the NFL in general who don't necessarily draft quarterback too well. You're bound to be bottom of the division and bottom of, your conference in general if you have, let's say, the fourth best quarterback in your entire division. 9 times out of 10, when you have the worst quarterback in your division, you're not going anywhere. And they can even still be talented. But, that's just unfortunate way the cards are drawn at that point. So, can the Jets be Super Bowl contenders this year? I will go out on a limb and say no. Wait, you all thought I was going to say yes? Absolutely not. And sorry to all my Jets fans out there. Listen, they do have Aaron Rodgers, and I know he will probably play a full season, hopefully, knock on wood, because I don't want to see him get hurt again. The game's always better when quarterbacks are healthy and playing. It's never good business for the NFL if it's a bunch of backups playing. Like 2 years ago when pretty much all starting quarterbacks were getting hurt and it was all backups playing, it just made for ugly, ugly, terrible football. Aaron Rodgers is still a top 10 talent at quarterback in the NFL. I don't know necessarily if he's a top 10 quarterback anymore, but it's Aaron Rodgers. He still slings the rock pretty much better than anybody has ever done it in the NFL history. He's still got great accuracy, a great arm. Mobility, concern ever since he tore his Achilles in game 1 last year. So we'll see how it goes. So they got Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. They got Breece Hall. Honestly, such an underrated running back in the league. I would say he's a top 10 running back in the NFL right now. Even though, he's still very, very, very young at his age. But Breece Hall, he was fantastic in college. He already showed a bunch of, great things in the NFL before he got hurt. So he comes back. They also have the Pittsburgh Panthers prodigy, Israel Abanikanda, on the roster. So now Abanikanda might not play as much as Breece Hall, but still, you have that 1-2 attack. They obviously have wide receiver Garrett Wilson. They added Mike Williams, and they still have Alan Lazard. So, tight end, Tyler Conklin, not the best. And then we get to the real issue of it, and that's the offensive line. Now, they drafted Olufashanu from Penn State. He'll play eventually. I don't know necessarily if he'll start right away, but he will play in the preseason, that's for sure, to get him reps and get him ready for the real-time game experience when it comes to the regular season. They signed Tyron Smith. They still have Elijah Vera Tucker. It's not a bad offensive line, but it's not necessarily a good one. It takes a long time for an offensive line to mesh well together in the NFL, unless you're the New England Patriots during the Bill Belichick and Tom Brady dynasty, where they always had a top 10, maybe even top 5 offensive line in the league. And that's why Tom Brady rarely got hurt in his entire career, is because of that, the protection. It all starts in the trenches. That's how football works. It all starts in the trenches. But I will say the issues that arose last year, it's the same issues that I see in Pittsburgh. It's just years upon years of drafting lineman talent. Some people just don't have an ear for the talent at on the offensive line. But is it possible that this line could finally develop into something for the New York Jets? Yes, of course it's possible. But what is the likelihood of it actually happening? We've been waiting for the Jets to solve their offensive line issues for close to 10 years and still hasn't improved. Pittsburgh at least is trending in the upward direction. The Jets kind of just flatlined right now. They're stagnant. Now, obviously, that was before drafting Alula Fashanu and Tyron Smith. That was before all that. Could it be better? Yes. But Elijah Vera-Tucker has to stay healthy. There's a lot of guys that just need to stay healthy. The Jets' offensive line was banged up last year, but, that's not necessarily entirely their fault because injuries happen. But the reality is you need your guys to stay healthy in order to actually form any sort of camaraderie together when it comes to pass blocking and run blocking. Like, you feed off of each other when it comes to, your linemen in the NFL. Now, their defense, they run a 4-3 base defense. They got some guys, Jermaine Johnson, Javon Kinlaw, Quinnen Williams, Hassan Reddick, C.J. Mosley, and, of course, arguably the best cornerback in the league, Sauce Gardner. So it's possible. I will say it is possible. Do I think they'll finish above the Patriots? Yes. I think they will finish above the Patriots. The Patriots are rebuilding. Obviously, they drafted Drake May, and we'll see how he develops, but he doesn't really have much to work with in New England. So we'll find out what the Patriots are eventually going to be. But right now in its current state in the AFC East, I still think out of pocket, I said it a while ago, that I think the Miami Dolphins take the division this year. I think Buffalo takes a step back. I don't think necessarily Josh Allen regresses, but not having Stephon Diggs there, that will be an issue. They will need a number one wide receiver. They drafted Keon Coleman from Florida State, who's a fantastic wide receiver. I think he'll blossom into a starter in this league. But Stephon Diggs has arguably been a top 5 wide receiver for the better part of the past 6 years in the NFL. So can Keon Coleman really live up to that hype? And then you got the Jets. I'm not saying it's impossible because anything's possible. I mean, Mike Tomlin got Duck Hodges and the Pittsburgh Steelers to a winning season before when everybody was hurt. So I've seen crazier things happen in the NFL. I'll say this. Would it shock me if the Jets make the playoffs? No. Would it shock me if they miss the playoffs? No. This is a go either way team. Health, it's all dependent on health. Can Aaron Rodgers stay healthy? Can the offensive line stay healthy? And can the offensive line finally develop into something and mesh well and be coherent to actually form a formidable front 5? Time is going to tell, but I personally, the Super Bowl talks, there's a very, very, very small Super Bowl window. I think there's about 5-6 teams in the NFL that are in like a Super Bowl bubble, teams that can go and win it now. The Jets are not close to that, in my opinion. Old, brittle quarterback, hurt, developing, promising offensive line. They do have a solid defense. If there's one thing that Robert Saleh knows how to do, it is defense. He proved that when he was with the 49ers years ago, but you can't entirely rely on your defense in this league. It's obvious, and, Pittsburgh basically was the poster child of that for many years. The only reason they won games was because of T.J. Watt and them boys up front. So is it possible that the Jets would do something similar? Yes. But they don't have Zach Wilson at quarterback anymore. Thankfully. I couldn't stand watching Zach Wilson anymore. You got Tyrod Taylor as a backup, and then Jordan Travis, rookie from Florida State, as his backup. So the Jets, all in all, the Jets have promise. But I don't think it's enough necessarily. Health, biggest concern by far is health. Got older players. Some players are older, getting out of their prime. It just happens. And then this offensive line, this has to be the year this offensive line shows something of improvement. They can't be bottom of the league they can't be bottom of the NFL anymore. Otherwise, I think Robert Saleh is out of a job. For Robert Saleh to keep his job, do I think they need to make the playoffs? Not necessarily, but they do need to compete for the AFC East. They do need to show competitive fire, He has to show the New York executives that he's the guy. He's the right guy for the job. He knows how to galvanize the troops, put in good game plans, good scheming, and just put out a good football product in general. There are no more excuses for Robert Saleh either. I believe this is like year 4 or 5 for him. Something's got to change. Something's got to show improvement. Otherwise, I think Robert Saleh is out of a job. All right, let's transition into the NBA now. So I talked about it last week where Klay Thompson, I thought his 2 best destinations possible were either, at least for winning's sake, would be the Dallas Mavericks or the LA Lakers. Now, I talked about that later that day when I posted that episode. Klay Thompson signed with the Dallas Mavericks. Instantly solves Dallas's three-point issues. You don't have to rely solely on Luka and Kyrie now for three-point shots. Now, Klay Thompson is not what he used to be. We acknowledge that, but his three-point percentage is still great enough to the fact that anybody in the NBA would kill to have those kind of numbers. So, yeah, Klay Thompson is not Klay Thompson because we're not used to seeing a dumbed-down version almost of Klay Thompson just because, he regressed since his injuries. He has. But I really think that Dallas is primed and ready to possibly make another run to get back to the NBA Finals next year. Luka Doncic, while I have my issues with him, ball-dominant guards who don't really get other people involved and mail it in on defense. I told everybody 2 weeks ago that I thought Luka reminded me a lot of Carmelo Anthony early on in his career. A guy who can get a bucket whenever, but kind of mails it in on defense and not necessarily elevates others to perform at their best. Like LeBron James elevates others. That's what LeBron has done his entire career. I mean, when he got to the finals in 2007 with that Cavs team and his second best player on the team was Larry Hughes, yeah, that just shows you how good LeBron is when it comes to elevating other players. But I think this immediately solves three-point issues when it comes to Dallas because you don't have to constantly rely on Luka or Kyrie to be your sole shot makers from three-point range. Luka draws a double team no matter what. Kyrie Irving draws a double team no matter what. Klay Thompson's going to get so many open shots this upcoming NBA season, and if he works on it still, like I know he probably will, the Mavericks are going to be fine. And they're going to be a way better three-point shooting team as a result of signing Klay Thompson. So now we're going to transition to the opposite team that I thought he should have went to or wished he went to, and that's the Los Angeles Lakers. So I saw also a report recently, DeMar DeRozan, that was the last big-name free agent that was left on the market. I held out hope that the Los Angeles Lakers would somehow, someway get DeMar DeRozan to come to LA. DeMar DeRozan signed a 3-year, $74 million contract in California, but with the Sacramento Kings. What is going on with the Lakers? Rob Pelinka can't get anything done. Jeannie Buss cannot get anything done. LeBron said it weeks ago. He would take less money for LA to bring in another veteran leader or another superstar level talent. They've done nothing. They've done absolutely nothing. This is why I can't stand the Lakers franchise. And of course LeBron got the max deal that he wanted now. But he told Rob Pelinka that and Jeannie Buss that weeks ago that he was willing to take less money to get another superstar on the team to help with him and Anthony Davis. Because Rui, D'Lo, Austin Reeves, they're not cutting it anymore for the Lakers. They're not cutting it, honestly. It's a bunch of BS going around LA right now. It's unfortunate to see the Lakers franchise, a franchise I've grown up with and loved for the longest time. It's just pitiful the way Rob Pelinka and Jeannie Buss choose to handle certain situations, especially in the offseason. You see everybody else in the West getting better. Honestly, and I know Klay wasn't Klay anymore, but the Warriors got Buddy Hield, one of the best three-point shooters in the entire NBA. They'll be fine. They're not going to be a championship team, but they'll be fine. The Kings got DeMar DeRozan. Paul George bolted to the East to join the Sixers. What are the Lakers waiting for? What are the Lakers doing? We see the product in front of us already. We see it. It is not a championship team. They have 2 championship caliber players on their team, and the rest are rotational players that are starters. That's the unfortunate reality of the Lakers right now. It's ridiculous that the Lakers cannot land another prospect. Players years ago would be clamoring to play with LeBron and Anthony Davis. I honestly miss the bubble team. I really do. It was a bunch of old geezers on the court, but guess what? Those old geezers like Dwight Howard, Rajon Rondo, Avery Bradley, Danny Green, those guys showed up in the NBA bubble, and they reaped the benefits. They won an NBA championship. Now, I feel like the Lakers are just the laughingstock of the West. At least not from an Anthony Davis and LeBron perspective, because those two show up no matter what. Those two show up day in, day out. Injuries happen. It is what it is. That's life in sports. But the fact of the matter is you have AD and LeBron, 2 focal point pieces that anybody would kill to have on a championship team. Anthony Davis could honestly start in probably every single lineup in the NBA. LeBron used to be every single team in the NBA, but both Anthony Davis and LeBron would start for the majority of the entire NBA. The entire NBA. Rui Hachimura, Austin Reeves, and D'Lo, they're rotational players on most of the NBA teams, at least most of the good ones. I don't know how the Lakers are going to do next year. And for everybody, I was critical of Bronny James in my last video. I was critical of the Lakers and the whole Bronny situation, but what's the rush? It's not like they wasted a first-round draft pick on Bronny. We know he wasn't projected to be a first-round draft pick. Everybody's putting first-round stress on him because he's LeBron's kid? Bronny's going to be fine in LA. Bronny's going to work out. He doesn't need the pressure right now. People are putting first-round draft pick pressure on him. He was a second-round draft pick. Lakers are basically paying him pennies on the dollar compared to a lot of other contracts in the NBA. It's going to work out. In time and patience, I think Bronny will be a good player for the Lakers. But as it stands right now, with the current roster that the Lakers have, I don't think they can beat Denver. I don't think they can beat Dallas. They really can't beat the Thunder. I can argue that they don't really match up too well with the Spurs and Victor Wembanyama. They don't match up with a lot of teams very well. AD does. AD lines up very well with a lot of the bigs in the West. I think AD is a top 3 big in the entire game. I think it goes Jokic, Embiid, and then Anthony Davis as the best bigs in the game. Wembanyama will be up there soon. You got Karl Anthony Towns. Don't mention Rudy Gobert to me. Dude stinks. The worst defensive player of the year ever in history. That makes me sick. But fact of the matter is the Lakers, as the roster is constructed right now, because of the ineptitude from Rob Pelinka and Jeannie Buss and the entire Lakers organization as a whole. Now, even though LeBron has had his say quite a bit, he openly said he would take less money to get a better player on the team to join AD and himself. And the Lakers couldn't do it. So, unfortunately, the Lakers will probably be another bottom seed. They'll be another bottom seed in the West next year. They'll probably make the play-in game and then have to fight their way tooth and nail to get into the playoffs to get that 7th or 8th seed. And then they'll play a team like Denver, or they'll play a team like the Thunder, and they'll get thumped in 5 games. I really hope JJ Redick knows what he's getting himself into. I really hope the man can coach this team. I really do, because I'm a diehard Lakers fan. I will always support the Lakers no matter what. But man, the product that we have going out on the court, it's not necessarily a championship team anymore. It was in the bubble because you had a bunch of players. Now, I know it was a bunch of old guys and Kyle Kuzma, the one young buck on that team in the bubble, but the way you saw everybody mesh well together, it was all a bunch of veterans who've been around the block, and a bunch of those players that joined the Lakers back in 2020, they were already championship-level players. Dwight Howard made an NBA Finals with the Orlando Magic. Rajon Rondo was an NBA champion with the Boston Celtics. Danny Green was a multiple-time NBA champion with the Spurs and with the Raptors the one year that Kawhi Leonard was there. And then he joins the Lakers and they win a title. That veteran leadership was perfect for the bubble because everybody was losing their minds in Disney. But, it was just, they had guys on the court that were used to those kind of stages and those championship settings. It didn't matter what was going on. LeBron and AD showed up in that series against the Miami Heat in the 2020 NBA Finals. So did Danny Green, so did Kyle Kuzma, so did Rajon Rondo, so did Markieff Morris, just JaVale McGee too. It was just a bunch of grizzled old players on that team, and LeBron and AD, but that proved to work back then. I'm wondering how well that team would stack up right now against the rest of the NBA. Probably not too well, but they were number one in the West before the NBA shut down back in 2020. So, they obviously were doing something right at that moment in time. But as it currently stands right now, the Lakers are not at all a threat in the West or a threat to make the NBA Finals. I don't know what's going on in LA. I really hope they can pull their heads out of their rear ends because it's just absolutely ridiculous that you can't get free agents to come to LA, the beaches, the city, the nightlife. The Lakers have the advantage that the Miami Heat have. They have the Sunshine State, Miami, the beaches, the nightlife, Jimmy Butler. The Miami Heat have always had good competitive teams no matter what. But the fact of the matter is, if you're in Miami or if you're in LA, how can you not get players to come to you? How do you not? That just goes to show you how crappy the Lakers have been run and how crappy of a team in general the Lakers are. You can't get players drawn towards some of the best, most popular cities in America with the most beautiful beaches, with the most beautiful scenery, with the most things you can do in general just to have a good time. You can't pull free agents to LA. That's ridiculous. So Klay Thompson joins the Mavericks. I wish he was a Laker. I would have loved to see Klay finish his career with the Lakers because that would have solved pretty much half, maybe 90% of the Lakers' issues if Klay Thompson signed with the Lakers. Their three-point shooting. The Lakers don't have shooters. Even in the bubble, they didn't have a lot of shooters. That has been the Lakers' Achilles heel for many years now, and it's coming back to bite them the way they run their franchise. It's just unfortunate. And we'll see. Time will tell. But I don't see the Lakers doing much next year. If they make the playoffs, it'll be because they win the play-in game like they've done 2 or 3 times over the past couple of years. But we'll see. One final story we're going to talk about today, and I'm very hyped because I recently watched a Netflix documentary. It was about the second coming of the Dream Team when it came to United States and Olympic men's basketball. When they went out and got Kobe Bryant, they got LeBron James, Carmelo, Dwayne Wade, Chris Paul. Watching that series on Netflix, I'll put the real name of the series, I'll put it up real quick because it's a fascinating watch, just how crappy the United States Americans, the Americans men's basketball team was, the years after the original Dream Team with Michael and Magic and Bird and Patrick Ewing and all those guys, and how many years it took for the USA to finally get back on top because, a lot of players in the world now come and play in the NBA. You have Giannis, who has led Greece to Paris this year in the Olympics. You got Jokic. Victor Wembanyama for France. It's, there's just a lot of star power throughout the world now when it comes to the NBA, or just in basketball in general. Sorry, not just the NBA, but last year the Lakers were upset, but this year, when it comes to who's going to win, who's going to take the gold home, as much as I love Giannis on Greece, as much as I love Victor Wembanyama in France, yeah, the United States men's team is absolutely loaded. This team is, honestly, in my opinion, more loaded than the one back in 2008. So here is the entire USA men's basketball Olympic team. You got Bam Adebayo, the stud from Miami, Devin Booker, the sniper from Phoenix, Steph Curry, best three-point shooter of all time, Anthony Davis, one of the best bigs in the NBA, Kevin Durant, arguably for a long time the second or first best player in the NBA, along with LeBron James, Anthony Edwards, the next quote-unquote Michael Jordan. He's shown so much promise. Joel Embiid, another one of the best bigs in the league, arguably one or two. Tyrese Halliburton, the young stud from Indiana Pacers. You got Drew Holiday, Kawhi Leonard, and recent champion Jason Tatum. The amount of star power that is on this men's team for the USA is absolutely crazy. I think this team is just going to destroy everybody. I don't think it's going to be close. I think USA is already, knock on wood, because I don't want to jinx it, but I think this might be the best USA men's basketball team ever put on the floor. You have arguably the best player of all time, LeBron James. You have arguably another top 10 player of all time, Kevin Durant. You have the best shooter of all time, Steph Curry. You have three of the best big men in the NBA, and widely considered some of the best big men to ever step foot on a basketball court, Anthony Davis and Joel Embiid leading that, and then Bam Adebayo, he's no pushover. Then you got Drew Holiday, a great defensive player, Ant Edwards, the up-and-coming next Michael Jordan, Tyrese Halliburton. This team is just absolutely loaded. The United States is not taking any prisoners this year when it comes to the men's basketball team in the Olympics in Paris this year. The USA, they're coming, and I think they're going to get the gold this year. And that's going to wrap it up this week on The Lake Show, everyone. Be sure to like, subscribe, share with your friends, leave some comments down below. I'm your host, Dominic Galeko. God bless.
I love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no, I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up, it's time to look at the enemy. Look